Friday night was game night, and many of us were there. There were a few that were not, so I'll tell you, we played Uno, and Sandy Norman was the biggest loser. I was the second biggest loser, but she got the consolation prize because Lisa had an eye out for who might feel the least. And so she was ready to have something for whoever that loser would be. But each of us was further loved because a lot of people who came to game night put food on the sharing table. And they shared it with everybody. Whether you brought food or not, you could just take whatever you wanted from the sharing table. Even the Austins, I didn't ask you, I hope this is okay, but even the Austins brought their barbecue sliders, Texas barbecue. So good. But because of Lisa and her awareness of who the loser might be, because of the Austins sharing their riches and everybody else putting food on the table for everyone, we all were noticed. We all had something to eat. And this is a very light version of what the gospel is about today. The gospel isn't so much necessarily about being rich as much as it is about noticing. The rich man who has beautiful clothing and eats sumptuous food always passes Lazarus by, never pays attention to Lazarus. Do you know that Lazarus means God helps? And he's the only one in the story with a name. Now, back in early Palestine, they didn't have napkins. I never knew that, but they didn't have napkins. But instead, they used bread to wipe their face when they ate. And it was that bread that would be tossed to the beggars. And that's what Lazarus was asking for. Lazarus wanted some bread. But the rich one was dealt such a perfect hand that he didn't want to be bothered by anything. He even had blinders on, so to speak. And he skipped right over Lazarus. So they both die, and they go to eternity. And in heaven, the translation today was a little bit different, but an older translation will say that Lazarus rested in the bosom of Abraham. And that is to say that Lazarus was right at Abraham's heart. Lazarus rested in love for eternity. But the rich man went to hell, or Hades, or whatever you want to call it, and he was in total discomfort. And he said, Abraham, now, he still didn't consider Lazarus anything more than below him. And he talked to Abraham, and he said, Abraham, you have Lazarus dip his finger in so to cool my tongue. And Abraham said, no. In essence, you made your bed. Now sleep in it. And then the rich man said, well, at least send Lazarus down to earth. Again, Lazarus, the less than. Send him down to earth to tell my brothers so that they don't get caught in the kind of eternity that I'm in. And Abraham tells him that he should listen to the prophets. Kind of like giving him a draw four card, but a good draw four card. Like there's prophets around you. And consider that Luke's gospel was written time after Jesus lived. So it was written knowing that the resurrection happened, even though we're talking about a present story about Jesus. But Luke is saying, kind of wording it in such a way that even if somebody came back from the dead, who you have in your presence, that person may not be listened to. Indeed, Jesus wasn't being listened to, and that's why a person like the rich man didn't have the love that Lazarus had in eternity. Outside of our church family, Jesus poses the question, who are you noticing? And what are you doing about it? Ron DeSantis noticed. He noticed people who came to the United States from Venezuela. But he didn't notice them in the way that Jesus challenges us to notice others. See, Jesus is saying notice and share. But Ron DeSantis wanted others to be stuck with sharing. And what he did is he dealt a more negative draw for to the people of Martha's Vineyard. Here, take these 47, and now you share, and you get a feeling of what it's like. Many of you know that 47 people were flown to Martha's Vineyard, and they were met by the people of St Andrew Episcopal Church up in Martha's Vineyard. So a church by the same name as us. But what they did is they pulled a reverse. They didn't throw the people out, but they welcomed them in. And to their church, they welcomed 47 people and gave them shelter. They gave them food, they gave them warm clothing, and for those who could actually do it, they gave them legal counsel. The people of St. Andrew then threw down a wild card and called up the high school and asked for kids who spoke Spanish if they could come to the church and help translate and play with the children. And the principal of the school allowed kids to leave school so that they could actually do that work. I agree that our immigration system is broken, and there is so much to be done. But I also understand that the Lutheran Church was once an immigrant church. And if you go to the ELC statement on immigration, or if you go to the ELCA Immigration and Refugee Service, it notes that our people once found it difficult to find jobs or fit in a country that didn't speak their language. But we found a place, and we became a church of hospitality for refugees. Following World War II, in the 40s and 50s, one out of every six Lutherans was a refugee or a displaced person. 1 out of 6. That was us. But Lutherans, with the participation of about 6,000 congregations in the United States, settled 57,000 refugees. In the decade after the fall of Saigon, between 75 and 85, give or take, Lutheran congregations sponsored 50,000 refugees from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. During the 80s, various congregations provided sanctuary for persons whose lives were endangered by wars in Central America. What if DeSantis sent 47 people to New Jersey? Would we be ready to help them? Would St Andrew Lutheran in Parsippany open our doors to them? In Timothy, that second reading today, we read, "If you are rich, don't be haughty. Set your hopes don't set your hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but set your hopes on God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Do good, be rich in good works, be ready to share." This is the good news of Jesus Christ. We're in a good place in St. Andrew. We have been dealt a good hand. We know what it means to share our treasure. Family Promise, Parsippany Food Bank, the Interfaith Food Pantry, school kits, the STAR program. And you'll have to teach me what else you do or have done. Some believe that we have to fix our immigration system. Others believe we need to stop immigration. Regardless of where you stand, or where I stand, there will be Lazaruses who will come into our lives. And Jesus' question to us today is, will we notice them? Or will we throw them a skip card? Or will we give them a drawer for food, clothing, shelter, and justice? Jesus came to afflict the comfortable and to comfort the afflicted. Are you comfortable? Do you feel challenged? Challenged by the word, met by Christ on the cross, nourished by the Eucharist, this holy meal that is open to everyone, poor and rich alike? Christ sends us forth to notice and to do for others.